everyone! Now, we're going to share a story today called Angelo. I wonder if Angelo's the man. As Angelo, hit myself on the nose, cleared away the tangle of sticks and feathers left along the ledges of the old church by generations of thoughtless pigeons, he peered into every nook and cranny looking for cracks. They would all have to be repaired before he could apply a new coat of stucco. Sometimes birds damage buildings, don't they? And put lots of sticks and things there. At first, he mistook her for just another abandoned nest. What's this? He moved in for a closer look. She was small, barely breathing. What are you doing here? He tried coaxing her with the end of his broom. Come on, you can't stay there, I've got work to do. But she did stay there, so he worked around her. Can you see there's a little pigeon up here, hiding still on the rafters. At the end of his day, he scooped the helpless creature up in his hat and set off for home, hoping to find some place to leave her along the way. He was still carrying her, and he reached his own front door. Very busy, isn't it, along here? Oh, what's going on here? There looks like lots of chaos going on this page, doesn't it? Okay, just one night, he grumbled, but you sleep on the terrace. When he noticed a large cat cleaning its paws on a nearby roof, he brought the bird back into his flat. Mamma mia, I restore walls, not pigeons, he continued to complaining as he made his way to bed. So he's had to make a little bed for the pigeon to care for her. Isn't that lovely? Yes, Etienne?
Mario says Mamma Mia.
Yeah, so I wonder maybe, because Mario's from Italy, I wonder if Angelo's from Italy too.
Yeah.
In spite of the demands of his work, not to mention his professional dislike for pigeons, Angelo soon found himself devoting all his spare time to her recovery, to her getting better. When she was strong enough, he started taking her to work. I think Angelo's beginning to like this pigeon. On sunny weekends, he drove her out into the countryside to recuperate, which means get better, among the ancient ruins and majestic pine trees. What a lovely, kind thing to do, isn't it? Help her get better in the countryside. In the evenings, he introduced her to his favourite music. With this kind of attention, it wasn't long before the pigeon was completely recovered. One morning after breakfast, as he left for the church, she disappeared over the rooftops. So he spent all this time looking after the pigeon, and now she's got better and has flown off over the rooftops. How do you think Angelo is feeling at the moment then? What do you think, Phoebes?
Sad.
Why do you think he might be feeling a bit sad?
The pigeon's up there.
Yeah, the pigeon's gone, and he's grown quite attached to her, isn't he? I wonder if she'll come back and visit. Angelo loved his work. With wet plaster and a few simple tools, he had spent his whole life making crumbling walls smooth again and bringing even the most weathered pieces of sculpture back to life. So he works really hard on fixing old walls and old sculptures and statues. Yes, Etienne? Is this about the story?
Yeah. Every time pigeons and animals get too big, they run away because they need to find their new family.
Yeah, and those animals are meant to be
And they might die in houses because
Exactly.
they always have little hearts, so they die.
Well, yeah, we talked about that, didn't we? Because unfortunately, some of our cats have been catching birds and things. So we talked about how those sorts of animals, yeah, and they have little hearts, don't they? Which sometimes means they beat very, very fast. They don't always survive. But the pigeon and other animals like that you can look after if they get poorly, we do release them back into the wild, don't we? Because that's where they're supposed to be. They're not supposed to live in your house.
Yeah, some snakes swim.
Yeah. She was just beginning. Oh, I think I've skipped to a different one. No. She was just beginning her career in the performing arts as an actress in one of the most popular piazzas. I think the pigeon is trying to do a bit of funny acting with a cone on her head. From time to time, she would stop by and watch Angelo work. After a few months, she realised that he was slowing down. It was taking him longer to mix the stucco, and he was beginning to rest more often. What do you think might be happening to Angelo? That means he's slowing down a little bit, Amelia?
Because he doesn't have a bow.
Yeah, maybe. And is he a very young man anymore? He's getting a bit older, isn't he? And as we get older, we have to do things more slowly and more carefully. You've got lots of energy to do things because you're 5. One afternoon, she paid him a visit. The old man looked tired and worried, and at first he didn't recognise her. Then she cooed. Coo, coo. Is that you, bird? I suppose you want your ledge back, eh? She cooed again. Well, I'll tell you, I don't know whether this wall is getting bigger or I'm getting smaller, but I am starting to wonder if I'll ever get it finished. Shaking his head, he picked up a small brush and went back to cleaning between the toes of an evangelist. She stayed with him for the rest of the afternoon to coo encouragement, so he worked around her. She showed up again the following day, and every day after that to help. As the temperatures rose, she fanned him with her wings. When he looked particularly weary, she carried his handkerchief to a nearby fountain and soaked it in the cool water. That's very kind. From time to time, Angelo would interrupt his work to explain some of the finer points of his craft. At lunchtime, she and a few friends provided entertainment. The longer Angelo sat and rested, the better that he would work in the afternoons. Also, the more crumbs that he dropped. Even with her help, however, there still didn't seem to be enough hours in the day. Before long, they were working right through lunch. Which isn't very good, is it? Because we all need a break and all need some food. Fortunately, they had their weekends to rest. One Saturday, whilst heading out to the countryside, Angelo made an announcement. My friend, it is time that you had a name, and I've been giving the matter a considerable thought. Since I found you on a Wednesday, I have decided to call you Wednesday. Mercoledì, which I think is Wednesday in Italian. Mercoledì, he said slowly and proudly. His suggestion was greeted with absolute silence. Do you think she liked it?
What does that mean?
What, silence?
Yeah.
What do you think silence means? When we're silent, what does it mean? Yeah, no talking at all. Okay, he said. How about Sylvia? That evening, as Sylvia happily pecked at her pasta, Angelo spoke at great length about his life, his career, and his hope that his church would be his crowning achievement. He must work on very special buildings, mustn't he? Oh. Week after week, month after month, the pair toiled side by side. Wait a second, you can put it in the bin in a second. The heat of the summer gradually gave way to the cool winds of autumn and ultimately to the chill of winter. Some days were just too cold for mixing stucco. After more than 2 years of the gruelling work, the end was at last in sight. But so too was another winter, and Angelo was now moving very slowly. In order to finish before the cold weather returned, they gave up their much-loved visits to the countryside. Poor Angelo, he's having to work all the time now. It was a warm November afternoon, when Angelo finally applied the last coat of stucco to the cherubs in the high pediment. With a single confident stroke of the trowel, his work at last was complete. Pop that on your table. We'll sort that out after. Wow, he's done a beautiful job, hasn't he? Can you tell of all the intricate details? The lovely statues. To Sylvia's surprise, however, he now seemed more worried than ever. At dinner that evening, she did everything she could to cheer him up. But the harder she tried, the more he just stared into his linguine, into his pasta. Finally, after a long silence, he spoke. Plasterers don't live forever, you know. This place has become your home. Where will you go when I'm gone? And how will I know you're safe? You need to sit down on your bottom, please. It's not very fair for the people at home, is it, to be listening to you fiddling? You need to show them how lovely you're sitting and how lovely you're listening, please. He continued staring at his linguine until suddenly, of course, that's it. He grabbed his hat and his coat and a torch. Wait here, Sylvia. The sun was just beginning to rise when Angelo eventually returned. He was so exhausted and looked older than ever, but as they fell into their favourite chair, she saw for the first time in many months that he was happy. That afternoon, workers began removing the scaffolding from the front of the church. I wonder what he did that's made him feel very happy. Has anyone got any ideas of where he might have disappeared to? What do you think, Phoebe?
We might disappear to a new home.
Maybe he's finding Sylvia a new home or him a new home. Does anyone else have any ideas? Can you see there, Amelia, or do you need to move around a little bit? Do you want to come here? Otherwise you won't be able to see. Let's find out, shall we? When Angelo didn't show up to see his work revealed, the men knew that something was wrong. They found him lying on his bed, surrounded by a tangle of sticks and feathers. The day Angelo was carried into the church, every detail of the old building looked like new, but only one of them was. Far above the streets, between the cherubs, sat a perfect single-family nest. To make sure that they would never be swept away, Angelo had shaped every stick and every feather of Sylvia's new home out of stucco. From it, she could easily see beyond the rooftops and the domes of the city to the distant countryside with its ancient tombs and majestic pines. Wow! Angelo's last job was to build an incredible nest that will last forever for Sylvia. Many years later, when the church once again required some attention, a pair of young plasterers came upon Angelo's beautiful nest. It was still in perfect condition. In the nest were a few feathers and what appeared to be the remains of an old hat. Neither plasterer touched a thing. Wow, what a beautiful story about Angelo and his friend Sylvia. I really liked that story. It was quite special at the end, wasn't it? We're really excited to put our story thoughts on the Padlet. We're excited to read yours too. Shall we say goodbye, everyone?
Bye.